Well, Gail Becker, you are not only an idol of mine, but you started a company that has revolutionized food. For those who do not know, Cauliflower is like the number one best-selling cauliflower pizza crust. You now have like chicken tender breast that I love. So many incredible products. And you started this in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
So why did you start this company?
It's I would say it's the sort of convergence of three different things happening in my life at the same time. So one, I worked in corporate America, and I think you could say I worked my way up the ladder, and I realized I didn't really like what I saw when I got there. And so I was looking for something more meaningful, but I didn't know what it was. Second, the passing of my dad. He was an entrepreneur, small business owner. He came to this country with nothing. I'm a first generation American, and I when he passed, something inside me just snapped, and I wanted to honor him in some way. I wanted to honor his entrepreneurial journey, and then finally, I'm the mom of two boys with celiac disease, and they were diagnosed at such a young age that it gave me a really good perch from which to watch the gluten-free industry evolve. And I just began to see that the industry was putting a lot of junk in gluten-free food. And I really thought, oh, someone's going to do something about this. And no one ever did. And so I put those three things together at that moment in my life. And I thought, wow, I need to do something. And I thought this would be a great opportunity.
So when you say this, I mean, this is very specific. I have tried to recreate, I try to follow mostly paleo. And I have tried to recreate these pizza crusts on my own. And it's a very unique idea. I mean, let me tell you, if it wasn't for me having tried CAULIPOWER first, I would never have gotten in my kitchen and been like, let me put cauliflower, egg, and Parmesan cheese in a bowl and make a pizza crust. So what is it that enticed you about cauliflower?
Well, it was, look, as a mom, I was always looking for ways to get more nutrients in my kids' foods. And I stumbled across cauliflower crust pizzas on the internet, right? There were 569,000 recipes the day I checked. I just picked one and I made it. And it was okay. It wasn't great. And my son asked me about a week later, hey, Mom, you ever going to make that again? I said, there's no way I'm making that again because it took 90 minutes to make a pizza crust after I got home from a full day of work. But I said, I'll find it for you. And I looked everywhere. I looked in stores. I looked online, couldn't find it. And I thought, wow, maybe this is it. You know, I was looking for something. I didn't know what it would be. And I just thought, maybe this is it. And so I thought, that's what I'm going to do. And I left my job and I bet everything I had on a vegetable.
A vegetable that's now, I think your phone's over there, but is now the little background hook of the phone.
It is, yes, it is the little
diehard cauliflower fan over here. So you are not the first. I mean, I've interviewed hundreds of founders at this point. Michelle Grant, who left Victoria's Secret and recently sold Lively for, I think, close to $1 billion. Another founder, Laurel Galucci, she started Sweet Laurel, which is like a paleo bakery in LA. And there's always this similar theme of you're working in corporate America. Most people hate it. It's too strenuous, the hours, and they leave. But I'm so fascinated by how it is that you could get yourself to a point where you leave that security and literally bet on a vegetable or bet on a bra like she did. I mean, how do you take that leap?
Yeah, it's such a good question. And, in my case, I really think it took something pretty dramatic, like the passing of my dad, to make me stop and realize I need to get off this treadmill. It wasn't that it was too strenuous, because believe me, starting your own business is about 1,000 times harder, but it was just unfulfilling. And I think you reach a certain point where you're looking for more meaning. And, for me, it was the passing of my dad. For a lot of people, I would imagine it's the pandemic, because things like losing someone you love or, going through a global pandemic, it makes you realize the fragility of life. And that's when we make the decisions, what am I waiting for? That's when we make those life decisions that, it may not work, but you have to give it a try.
If you don't mind me asking, was his passing like super unexpected, or were you expecting it?
He was older. He was 87. I mean, certainly, but and it's funny because he didn't have a disease or anything, but he began to just deteriorate and he lost his independence. And when you lose your independence, that's the hard part. And my only regret with CAULIPOWER is that I didn't start it while he was still alive, because I would have loved for him to see it.
And I know he would be so proud of
I
you.
think I think today he's looking down and smiling. At the beginning, he probably thought, "You're doing what?" I don't know. But oh well.
What were your parents' backgrounds? Were they into this?
No, not at all. My parents are both Holocaust survivors. They're both from Germany. My mother passed away many years ago, and but I tell you what that experience did do to the way that they raised me. Food was always very important because it was something that they didn't have when they were young, obviously. And so no matter how much money we had or didn't have, there was always the best food, and you never wasted food. And my mother, I remember, like, even they were scraps, she would wrap it up and put it in the freezer. So of course I went into frozen food. Of course, there are so many signs that, in my childhood that led me to this moment in time. But it's really this sort of, this respect for food and accessibility to food, and it is the great, it is the great equalizer. We all need to eat. And my father used to say, look, in the camps and everything, obviously it was horrible. He said, the worst thing was the hunger. And I never forgot that. And, to this day, it really is what drives me.
So I think most people lack that drive because they haven't had that moment. I think a lot of people go through life, right? They're kind of waiting on this moment or this thing to fall out of the sky, and you're like, now's your time. And it seems like you had that in many different ways throughout your life. Through the, talking about the food and your father passing, and also a fellow Jew. So love that for us. And so, okay, so you leave the tech world. You're married. You have 2 sons.
I was not married when I left.
Okay.
I did have 2 sons.
And they were older or younger?
They were, at the time they were, 13 and 8.
So they're a bit, they're pretty young.
Yeah. So they were young at the time. They're older now. And it was, and they had to come along for this journey, right? They had to understand what it meant, and the sacrifices that we would need to make collectively. But I just want to comment on something you said. It is, you're right. We do wait for these signs, but that's a shame. Why do we have to wait for a sign? And I think maybe even particularly women, like, we think that, we're looking for this perfect moment, angels are going to sing, bells are going to ring, and it may not ever come. So you don't have to wait for a sign. You just have to take that first step and bet on yourself.
I love that. I also think that's very relative in so many areas. I know I told you that my ex-boyfriend and I, who you met or briefly at that event, I remember when we broke up, he said, I'm waiting for this sign that tells me that I love someone. And I don't know if that's real or it's out of the movies. And I'll never forget that. And not to put him on the spot. And I remember saying, I have lived such an insane life at 25 at this point and experienced so much. Those signs come in the most subtle ways.
Yeah.
But you don't, that thing that you see in the movies, that thing falling out of the sky. I assume the day after your father passed, you weren't like, fuck, I'm going to the kitchen to make cauliflower.
No, that's not. No. Yeah, no, absolutely not. No, absolutely not. But you have to allow yourself the time to think what it is that you really want. There's this wonderful passage, this story, where this guy is up in a tree and he's waiting for a sign from God. He's there's a big storm and a boat comes by and he says, no, I'm waiting. I'm waiting for a sign from God. And this airplane comes by. No, I'm waiting for a sign from God. And he passes away and God says, hey, God,
it's a sign. What are you doing?
So it's like, it's, I think you have to respect yourself enough to think, I don't need a sign.
No.
I am the sign. My desire, my unfulfilled needs, that's the sign.
Yeah, you're right. And betting on yourself, I've realized that so much in the past 6 months. You really can't bet on anyone else to do anything.
Absolutely.
And you don't have a co-founder for CAULIPOWER.
I do not.
So cauliflower is cheap, but the other ingredients are not super cheap. I mean, this whole gluten-free trend, I witnessed this. I mean, I kind of was like vegan for a while and then gluten-free, all these, just basically anorexic trends to like try not to eat. And I actually did, my mom has really bad celiac. And I did start witnessing probably around 2016, these gluten-free products were not only making me really fat, like I was just getting really fat because I was always so hungry. But I remember looking at the ingredients and being like, well, it's gluten-free, so it should be good with me, but it's also got sugar in it. It's got insane amounts of gums and starches. And cauliflower is very clean. So how did you get around those waters?
Well, it's interesting because this is something that the gluten-free industry never saw coming. So, at the time, at the beginning of the industry, to your point, gluten-free food didn't have to taste good. And it certainly didn't have to be good for you.
No.
It only needed to tick the box of gluten-free. And you're right. Sugars, fats, that's how they made it. That's how they made the products. And it was really, I think, one of the sort of, the main tenets of CAULIPOWER was, why can't it be better for you? Why can't it taste good? And why can't we all share from the same plate? And even if we all have different reasons for eating it. So I created CAULIPOWER because my 2 sons have celiac disease. Let's be clear. But we don't market ourselves as a gluten-free brand. Most people who buy CAULIPOWER are not gluten-free. And that's the point. That is the point. We make great tasting, better for you food that happens to be gluten-free. So no matter what your reason is, we have something.
In a way, you almost ticked off all of the boxes, like gluten-free, keto. I think a lot of the food is paleo in a very chill manner.
Yeah, I mean, look, I just think, one of the things I noticed when I entered the food industry was there was this sort of element where like food was really precious. There were even companies that were selling it in glass bottles, and it was just all very out of reach. And I thought, wow, food should be shared. It should be accessible to everybody. It should make you laugh. It should make you smile. It should make you feel good. And that is really the core of the CAULIPOWER brand.
I want to back up a second. I didn't say the word fat. I hate the word fat, so I want to put that out there. But the products did make me definitely gain a lot of weight. So I was
which is common. Fat is common. Yeah.
So not to throw anyone off there with that word that I dislike, but going back to so you leave corporate, you're making pizzas is the first product, correct?
Yes.
And you're buying in bulk all of these items. You're living in SF or LA at the time.
I was living in LA, but just to be clear, I only made the pizza in my house one time.
Okay.
And then right from that, I went to big time manufacturing.
How?
I figured I was a bit of an older entrepreneur, so I didn't have much time to waste. So
How old are you?
I was
like 30.
Oh, God bless you.
Gail, you literally look like not a day past 40.
Okay, you're my new favorite person. No, I was just 50.
Wow. And so you're fucking awesome. And I'm probably going to look like 80 at 50 if that is how you look.
Thank you. That was nice. So anyway, but the point is that, I felt like I didn't have a lot of time to live. And so I just wanted to go big. And so, I went right to manufacturing, and it was hard. And, it was hard because even though we were in manufacturing, we started off very small, and a lot of manufacturers didn't want to take us on because we didn't have enough volume, or, what does this crazy woman from Los Angeles know about making pizza? So I had to, meet with and beg and a lot of manufacturers to make our pizza in the beginning. No one would do it.
I appreciate you saying your age because I put you on the spot there. But I mean, it's hard for me. I know, and I can totally cut it out after. But the reason I would like to keep it in is because everyone in this day and age is 20, 25, 26.
Yeah.
And they're freaking out. They don't have enough time because of the internet. If they haven't gotten famous or viral by the time they're 30, their lives are essentially ruined. I mean, I talk to multiple young people a day. And it's this time is running out. I don't have it. Like the idea is in here. I'm not rich yet. My life is screwed.
Wow.
And I 100%.
That's a lot of pressure.
It's a ton of pressure. And I attribute 110% of it to social media.
Oh, yeah.
And when I talk to founders like yourself and everyone I know, and I even read a study the other day that said that the most successful founders started their companies at 45.
Yeah.
And so this obsession with having this at 25 or 30 is insane. How would you advise these kids?
Well, I would say a couple things. So one, definitely the data shows that founders over a certain age, maybe it's 40 something, or founders with more experience, more life experience, their companies do better.
Of course.
And that's not surprising.
No.
Now, is it harder for a whole bunch of reasons? I have young kids, all of this. Of course it is. Is it easier in many ways to do it when you're younger, when you don't have all these responsibilities? 100%. But, everybody comes to the business with something. So go out, learn what you love, learn what you don't love, learn what frustrates you, look at the world, and look for opportunity. And that's where you're going to find your white space. It's not like I grew up thinking, oh my gosh, I want to be in pizza. I didn't. I love pizza. I love vegetables. But I never thought of this, 10 years ago, I would have said you were crazy.
Yeah.
But look at that. The whole point of life is to see what the world has to offer and then make it smaller based on what makes you happy.
So interesting. I met you because I went up to you at a networking event in Austin in March. And for reference, it's now August.
Yes.
So I was like, I want you on my podcast. I knew I was going to bring this back at some time. And you said that, you're going to these manufacturers and you're kind of having to knock down some doors, right?
Yeah.
How often were you getting rejected?
Well, when I started, no one would take us on. I probably had to interview 8 different co-mans. I mean, keep in mind, there's not a lot of pizza manufacturing in this country, and then you had to do gluten-free pizza manufacturing, and on and on and on. And our volumes at the time were very small. So, I basically had to beg, borrow, and steal. And in fact, in the very last one, I actually did beg for an hour. I literally begged, and I said, "Please try one more time." And ultimately, we did it. But yeah, it's hard to get people to take a bet on you. That's why it's so important to take that bet on yourself, because you're never going to convince anyone else to do it. And so yeah, it was really hard in the beginning. It was hard in the middle. It's still hard.
How'd you convince that guy? I mean, what was? This is a manufacturer.
It was a manufacturer, so in the ecosystem of food, CAULIPOWER is a manufacturer.
Yeah.
And you can own your own manufacturing, or you can, hire a co-manufacturer with the plant to actually make the product. And so, yeah, I mean, there are not a lot of women in manufacturing. I will be very honest with you. And so it's hard, they sort of looked at me like I had a third eye. And, and oftentimes when you disrupt a category, when you challenge the status quo, when you try and do something different, especially if you don't have any experience, of course they looked at me like that. And what I hope that CAULIPOWER does is I hope it encourages other people, other industries to, take a bet on that person, on that woman that looks a little unlikely, because you never know what can happen.
I've had a lot of conversations with the founder of Sprinkles, Candace Nelson.
Oh, I know Candace.
Yeah, she's great. And she says very similar stuff about, she disrupted this industry with cupcakes,
Absolutely.
right? And of course, now it's this massive company.
Yeah.
But even throughout her book, there were so many things that said, no one believed in me. No one believed in this idea.
Right.
And I think that's what sets founders apart from not founders, is because to be constantly told no is so difficult. For me, that's one of I think the hardest parts about entrepreneurship. So I'm curious what you would say is one of the hardest parts about this journey.
Wow. How long do we have?
Is I have lots.
Give me your top.
One or two.
I would say, the no's can fuel you. They have fueled me. All of the people who said no along the way. First of all, a founder never forgets. They remember the people that bet on you when no one else did, and they remember the people that walked away. And those no's, and there's one in particular that I can think of that just fuel me even to this day.
A manufacturer that said no, or like
No, it was an investor about it that said no and said
now they're like
and said no one's ever going to buy a cauliflower crust pizza. And so anyway, but yeah, I mean, let the no's fuel you. I would say, what's the hardest part? The hardest part, I think, is one, it's constant.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first thing you think of when you get up in the morning. It's the last thing you think of when you go to bed. Every day is a roller coaster. I don't mean the year is a roller coaster. I mean the day is a roller coaster. Like this, every single day. And it can be exhausting. And it can, not physically, although yes, but emotionally.
Oh yeah.
And there's a lot of people who depend on you, and you feel the weight of the responsibility. Even other female founders who have started businesses or thinking about starting a business, I feel that weight too, because I want CAULIPOWER to be an example. I want someone to be, find the next CAULIPOWER or whatever it is. And so there's a lot of responsibility with that. And just sort of, keeping everything in perspective is hard.
Even before I met you, I've seen other cauliflower brands pop up. And I remember, I wasn't quite familiar. I knew the company. I wasn't as familiar at the time with you as a founder, but I always thought like they stole this woman's idea. I've seen this. This is not the first one that came out. So, I mean, you truly did disrupt the industry. But when you went to that manufacturer and that last one that you kind of convinced, I mean, what was your story? Like, I made one pizza in my kitchen for my son and he loves it, so this is going to sell.
No, I tried to show the demand amongst consumers. If you think about it, look, I didn't create the concept of cauliflower crust pizza. All I did was commercialize it.
But before it was all just these at-home food bloggers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And think about that. Think about the giant hole left by the industry, that these people were so desperate to find a healthier alternative to their pizza that they were relegated to spend 90 minutes making it from scratch and making a mess of their kitchen. And so, of course, like if you think about it, the big corporate food behemoths, they spend hundreds of millions of dollars on R&D every year. Why did I come up?
Yeah.
And it's because I was one of those people. I was one of those women. And yes, competitors are going to come and go, no matter what business that you have. But you got to keep looking ahead, because, it's kind of like running. If you look behind, you're going to trip. And they're going to come and they're going to go. And that's exactly what's happened in this space.
After you get that yes, what's the turnaround time then? Do you immediately get into stores? How much money does this cost?
Well, it depends. Whatever your business is, making frozen pizza is probably one of the most expensive things that you could do. So I self-funded for the first year, which was hard.
Did you get into debt from that?
I didn't get into debt per se, but I did. I used a lot of my own money. I sold personal belongings. I downgraded my lifestyle. I maxed out my credit card.
Okay.
So yeah, I really went all in. I don't know why. It was almost like a calling. It wasn't. It was something that I needed to do. Yeah, and then I took investment about a year later. But so I think and it's a big reason why in food a lot of people go into bars or chips, because it's a little bit cheaper to make. Frozen food is hard. But no, so in food you have to make the product. So you spend all that time, you spend all that money, you make the product, and then you try and sell it. And so that's what happened. So I had to make these frozen pizzas, and then I went and sold it. And I sold my first customer was Three Whole Food stores on the West Coast.
Okay, and how'd you get into them?
So the great thing for any of your listeners is Whole Foods has this program where you can sell your product to your local region.
Oh,
So at the time, mine was Los Angeles, was SOPAC. So I literally walked in with a styrofoam container filled with 4 of the most expensive pizzas you've ever had, and you know, with some ice, some dry ice, and I literally had to leave it on the counter. You don't get a meeting with anyone; you just have to leave the samples,
like the counter, like the customer service counter,
like the receptionist counter at the Whole Foods offices. Not the grocery store, at the offices. And but it's like, you know, I often say it was like leaving my child at daycare.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you gonna do with that? Be careful. And then about a week later, I got a note from one of the buyers there that said, we tried your pizzas, we love them, we're gonna bring them into 30 stores.
And do they then say, here's $100,000, go make more?
No, it's all a bet. It's all a bet. And so I knew I wouldn't be getting orders. 30 stores is not a lot. So then I had to, you know, spend the money and make the product. And then we grew and then spend more money. And, you know, it's pretty much that cyclical ever since.
So when you go and you get that order and then you go make more product, do you even take any money home from that? Or you basically...
I didn't take any money. I didn't take a salary for the first 2 years of CAULIPOWER. I took a really small salary for the next 6 years. In fact, there was a really interesting article that just came out in Inc. magazine by Stephanie Maida that compares, you know, there's always a lot of talk about CEO salaries, but about founder salaries and how little money founders pay themselves.
Yeah.
And all the reasons why, and all the reasons why that's not actually a good idea. But yeah, so I really...
How did your sons, who's paying for them?
Well, that was all that's part of my savings.
Okay.
Living off my savings.
So you did have then like adequate savings to start this company. And I think sometimes that is, I mean, I know you said credit card and stuff, which is expected, but also that is one of the benefits of waiting a little bit longer.
It is. Yeah, it is. It is. Absolutely. 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 And my dad, he had a small house that he left me, and I sold it and I put every last dime into the company because I felt like it was blessed. You know, I felt like, you know, how hard he worked for it. He was the American dream.
Yeah.
And so I just put every last dime into it. So yeah, that's my heart and soul and just about everything else in this company.
So 30 Whole Foods, and then you go to VC.
We expanded from there, and then so that was in February 2017, and then we got into some more stores, and then Walmart took us in 900 stores at the time in fall of that year, fall of 2017, which is really fast. And so that's when I needed to raise money to be able to afford to make the product that was going to go into Walmart.
A lot of these startups can't keep up with the fast if they grow that fast, but it seems like you were on your own with no co-founder able to do that, which is quite remarkable.
Yeah, you know, look, I think everybody needs to figure out what are the rules you're going to follow and what are the rules you're going to break. So I did a little bit of both, right? So yes, I followed a lot of rules, but I also broke some. You're right. You know, it was really fast. Walmart to go into market and into Walmart the same year was practically unheard of. And lots of people advised me against it. But I had to think back to why I started the company. And my mission was to make healthier food accessible to all. That was really important to me and my mission and the reason I started the company. So Walmart was a really big part of that for me. Also, I think when you are disrupting a category, you know, you want to leverage that first to market advantage. And I knew there would be competitors. I didn't know quite as many, but I knew there would be competitors. So it was really important for me we were obviously first. We needed to be fast.
Yeah.
So that was part of the strategy.
Yeah, because I'm thinking if you had said no to Walmart and listened to what other people said, I mean, a lot of these opportunities
and lots of people told me to say no.
but you get that one. I mean, there might have been in a year from then, someone said like, actually, no.
Yeah.
I mean, these people don't realize how testy these people are. I mean, it's, you get, someone can say yes, and then tomorrow they're having a bad day, and like you're out the door. It's just how this industry works.
Yeah. It's kind of how life works.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's just how life works. You're right. It's just, you just have to take advantage of the moment. And sometimes you really have to follow your gut and your instinct. And I think that's another advantage that, being a little bit older really helps you. Like, when I was younger, I didn't trust myself as much. I didn't trust my instinct. I had it, but I didn't always listen to it. And then you hit a certain point in life and you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to listen to it. And that feels really good and empowering and, is oftentimes right.
So was there one moment along the way that like has stood out to you as just the biggest highlight of this whole journey? I mean, was it getting that call from Walmart? Was it, an interview that came out?
I would say the biggest, it's hard to say there was one moment, but there are many continuous moments with the same theme.
Mm-hmm.
And what gives me the most joy is seeing the comments.
Right. I was going to say, I bet it's probably that.
It's so funny. I met this woman and she said, my dad loves cauliflower. He loves cauliflower. So I said, can I send them a message on your phone? And so I said, thank you so much for supporting us and what have you. Anyway, I thought that was it. The next day she sent me a video of her dad, which literally I must have watched it 10 times. For people to take the time to write us, to call us, to send letters, to comment on our social, and to tell us how something as easy and as simple as, helping them with a meal, making them feel better about themselves, making them feel good about what they're giving their kids, giving them more time to do what they love. That's gold to me. And I have read every comment, positive and negative, that has ever been sent to CAULIPOWER since the beginning of the company and still do today. And it is really what drives me.
CAULIPOWER is still a privately held company. I was talking to my best friend yesterday. And I was saying, there's a place here I love, Maman. I love Maman, Bluestone Lane from back in the day. And there was one other place I was talking about. All of these places have expanded. I mean, I remember it when they were one store. And again, these are, coffee shops, not necessarily, but they have products I've seen in other stores, even Milk Bar.
Yeah.
And I love what Christina did with Milk Bar, but the quality has gone down. I mean, like I'm an OCD neurotic food person. I remember it when I first had that meal. You have been able to maintain the same brand, expand products, and not, become a public company. How is it that CAULIPOWER and your mission has been able to do that and still be a privately held company when so many of these CPG companies, I'm assuming you're getting offers day out and day in, like, can we buy CAULIPOWER from you? And I get the sense that this company is still your baby.
You know what? We made a promise to our consumers to always give them the best that we can and to give people the food that they deserve.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what made CAULIPOWER stand out in the beginning. And it's certainly going to be, part of who we are, forevermore.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can't, look, I did give up a lot to start this company. But that's the reason why I did it. And so, as long as I'm around, that's always going to be who we are. And we made that promise to our consumers, and that promise is everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's a really nice thing to say. And it's something that we work very hard at. We have a lot of people on the team who do nothing but ensure that our products are filled with quality and a little bit of love too.
What do you look for when you're hiring, or what especially turns you off during anything in the hiring process?
Oh, such a good question. What I look for is, I look for obviously experience now, although in the beginning we were getting a lot of, we were just getting people with passion.
Yeah.
And I still look for that.
Mm-hmm.
Having the experience is great. I would say, CAULIPOWER is a good mix of people with, wonderful experience in the food space, but also just a real passion for helping people, for making food more accessible to all, um, to making food. I love that. So I do look for that. The one thing that I have been known not to hire someone is when I say in an interview, oh, what's your favorite cauliflower product? And they say, oh, I haven't tried it yet, or I don't know. And I'm just like, I'm like, if you haven't tried it, at least know enough to lie.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like, okay.
Yeah. I would think that would be a bit of like an on thing.
It was kind of like, like that's not about cauliflower. That's in life.
Yeah.
If you're interviewing for a shoe company,
Sure.
try the shoe.
You should know the shoes, right?
If you're interviewing for a restaurant,
Do the research.
yeah, do the research. So, yeah, that's my little pet peeve.
I interviewed a very successful founder equally to you a few weeks ago, and she said her biggest turnoff is a lot of these young people are very entitled in this day and age, showing up to some of these interviews. And again, I attribute a lot of that to social media. So I'm curious if you've experienced any of that. And I know you said you're hiring now mostly more seasoned people, but that is a common theme throughout a lot of founders I've interviewed, that they all say that there is this entitlement with this younger generation.
There's definitely generational differences. No question. But, some of them are negative and some are really positive. I think, I learn from my team every day. I learn from all the different, backgrounds and generations and age groups and everything. And I love that. And I encourage everybody to learn something new every day in life. If you stop learning, that's the day you need to leave.
Yeah.
When I was in corporate America, I stopped learning. That was the day I left. And so, I love having that diversity. People are people. It's hard to generalize into groups, but I love, I always call it reverse mentoring. Like, some of the young,
That's the sweet spot.
That's the sweet spot. Like I learn and I ask lots of questions and I learn every day. So I hope that continues.
Gail, what is one piece of advice besides betting on yourself for a young person who hates their job right now, is in their 20s, is interested in entrepreneurship, but doesn't have that idea yet, but the one thing they do know is they hate their job?
So, I think there is a lot of pressure on the idea, right? Like you have to have the idea. And the idea is obviously really important, but it's also pretty common. People have ideas every day. So having the idea obviously is a first step, but it's not even the most important step. What defines successful entrepreneurship is not a great idea, it's execution. So have your idea, whatever it is, make sure you can do it either better or cheaper or faster or, more enticing, whatever your sweet spot is, and do it differently. Don't be like everybody else, but then execute. I hear from people every day, I thought about starting a cauliflower crisp. I thought, okay, right.
Yeah.
It was like the woman from Dry Bar. When I first met her, I love her, Allie.
Never met her, but
She's great.
Yeah.
Allie, and I said, look at my hair. I should have come up with that, but I didn't. So it's not about coming up with it. It's about actually doing it, taking that first step. And if it's not today, that's okay, because you're researching life. And it will come.
It's so important to know. You made that pizza in your kitchen, right? She was going to, I think, friends of her houses.
Yeah, exactly.
These weren't things where you show up to the manufacturer being like, I've got the idea, but I don't really have our MVP.
Yeah. And, and sometimes people think like, oh, it has to be perfect before I launch. It has to be perfect before I go to market. It has to be perfect before I make that first hire. No, it doesn't. It just has to be. And then you sort of let the marketplace and consumers help guide you down the path from there. That's a really important point. I know lots of people who've let some great opportunities slip by because it wasn't perfect.
And perfection does not exist. I think, learning as an entrepreneur, I mean, that's the most,
Totally.
it's the best thing. It's the most remarkable thing. I think the ups and downs are what keep me, and it seems like you,
Yeah, absolutely.
going. Okay, so pizzas, and then there's chicken tenders now.
Chicken tenders.
What's next? Are we doing dessert?
We have our frozen meals, which are great.
Oh, I tried these.
Yes. Oh, please try this.
Yes.
And we have several new innovations coming out this year.
Getting into desserts?
I probably not. Definitely not this year.
I'd say like a cauliflower flourless brownie.
Definitely not this year, but you never know what the future holds. But we have some really exciting innovations coming out third and fourth quarter this year, which I'm super excited about. And I want to offer your listeners a free coupon. All they have to do is reach out to CAULIPOWER on any social media channel and mention your name, mention the name of your podcast, and we will absolutely give them a free.
Does this coupon come in the mail or in the email?
Email. Cool. It'll be a digital coupon good for any free product, not $1 off, a free product.
Love that.
Who
Gail,
doesn't love free pizza?
I literally, your assistant or associate, whoever was at that ink thing, she gave me coupons.
Oh, she there?
And I
brought some today.
I want to email it. And I was like, can you bring me more? And I was like, no, you can't ask someone.
No, it's okay. I don't go to the bathroom without one.
Okay. I literally love those coupons. So thank you. Where can everyone find CAULIPOWER and you on social media?
Okay, CAULIPOWER. We're CAULIPOWER and I are everywhere. Gail, Becker. Feel free to direct message CAULIPOWER. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, you name it.
Gail, you are amazing. I will put the link to all of the social media.
Great.
You guys can DM, email, get that coupon,
as
well as follow your continued success.
Okay.
You are incredible.
Oh, back at it.